discussion on mutual funds under Wealth Management Unit 3. And in this particular video, we're going to talk about categorization of mutual funds and what are the various ways we can categorize them. So broadly speaking, in terms of mutual fund categorization, when we look at categories of mutual funds, they could be based on four broad methods of segregating them. The first method would be essentially based on the underlying investments. What is the instrument in which the fund is investing into? The second one could be in terms of investment restrictions, whether I can invest or get out at any point of time, or whether there are some sort of restrictions that come in. The third is based on my method of purchase. Do I go and purchase it directly on my own, or do I use an intermediary to purchase the mutual fund? And the fourth is based on the tax treatment of the money that I get, and if there is a better way to kind of position that, right? Uh, Within these, the first one is the most extensive categorization. This is going to take the crux of our time in this particular video, which is what kind of mutual funds are available, what kind of mutual funds exist, and how do we essentially put them in different brackets, right? Now, based on underlying investments, you could categorize mutual funds into either funds that invest into equity, or funds that invest into debt, or funds that invest into both, or funds that invest into other asset classes, right? What could be other asset classes? Things like gold, real estate, etc., right? So broadly, there are four major categories, and within those, there are subcategories of funds which are created. Let's start with one by one. The first category we're going to look at is equity funds. As the name suggests, these are funds that would invest in equity markets or equity stocks. They are divided into 4 or 5, 6 major brackets. There are some other names that are also available. Large cap funds invest in large companies, or bulk of the investment is in large companies. Usually, while every fund could have a different definition of how they classify themselves, usually in large cap funds, most investments is in large companies. And what do we mean by large companies? Companies greater than maybe somewhere around 20,000 crore of market capitalization. So these large cap funds will only invest in large company stocks majorly. Then we have what is called as mid cap funds, which are going to invest in mid-sized companies. And what are these mid-sized companies? Anything that starts anywhere between 3,000 to 20,000 crore is basically mid-size. So predominant investment is in mid-sized companies. Then we have small cap funds, which typically invest in companies the size of less than 3,000 crore. Predominantly, these are small companies, small cap companies that you are investing in predominantly. It does not mean that a large cap fund cannot pick up a mutual fund, cannot pick up a stock that is of a mid cap size. They can. But predominantly 70 to 80% of the portfolio will be in the larger companies that we see, right? Then we have something called as theme-based funds. So for example, a fund talking about rural income or rural consumption theme, right? Or a fund that is based on infrastructure theme. So they could cut across categories of certain, these are multi-cap funds, what is called as multi-cap funds. Why are they called multi-cap? Is because they can go into any of these capitalizations, large, mid, small, right? Also known as flexi-cap funds. There are some general diversified flexi-cap funds, and there are some theme-based funds. Theme-based funds could go into any company that caters to rural incomes, any company that caters into infrastructure, any company that caters into some sort of a theme that plays out, and it could be large, mid, small company, anything. Then we have sector-based funds, which are like a pharma fund, which invests only in pharma companies, an IT fund, which invests only in IT firms, a banking fund, which can invest only in banks. So we have these sector-based funds as well. Again, they will cut across the market capitalization in these sectors. Typically, it's sector-based. And then there is a category called as equity-linked savings scheme, or in other words, it is called as ELSS.